All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What's the Topic, the broadcast where myself, J Dub, and just several of us get together and discuss a lot of different off the wall topics, a lot of different things that we bring to you each week. And we have a different, interesting topic for you tonight. We always, as always, have our returning host each week, one being my brother LC. LC, how's it going tonight?
Hello, hello.
All right. And a few words. And our other permanent host that we have bringing us some of this music in the background is Hitman. How's it going tonight there?
It is going good. Good to be here. Can't wait to get started.
All right. Like I said, we have myself, J Dub, LC, and Hitman. We will be here every week bringing you all the chat topics, and we rotate around different guest hosts each week. And tonight we have DC over here. How's it going, DC?
Nah, it's going pretty good. Can't complain.
All right. That's always a good thing to know. No complaints. And also, my other brother joining us tonight for our topic is down here in the bottom right. Oh, Razor.
How's it going, everybody? Pleasure to be back. Had fun last week. Let's do it again this week.
All right. And you'll hear me refer to him as Scott sometimes because, yeah, that's my brother. And that's what I know him as, but also online as Razor. So, what we have tonight. Last week we discussed the Mandela effect, and I'm sure we will come back to that at one point or other in future broadcast. But tonight we're going a completely different direction. Um, we're moving from that winter into the springtime of the year, and springtime means storms and bad weather and Mother Nature and all this. So we will be discussing, to begin with, our the seasons. What are our favorite seasons? What are our least favorite seasons? Um, and then we're going to be moving into weather events and different things like that. And all of this is totally unscripted, um, totally off the cuff. This is what we do a lot of times when we're playing different games together or just hanging out in Discord. We get to discussing different topics, and that's what we're trying to bring to you. But seasons, spring, summer, winter, fall. And in case anybody's watching that's not from the continental US, um, we are all based in the continental US. All of the hosts here tonight and the guests. Um, so, with that being said, let's hop over here to DC and favorite season. What is your favorite season to begin with?
I'd have to say probably right now, springtime. I mean, it's not too cold most times. It's not too hot. You don't. Well, I can say you don't get snow, but we had snow 3 weeks ago up here in
Yeah.
March. Um, but usually you get a little bit of the cold, a little bit of the warm. Not too hot, not too cold. Like I said, that's it's probably my favorite time of the year.
Right on. Springtime. Um, let's hop down here to our other guest. Um, Razor, favorite season.
I believe I'd have to agree with DC. Springtime, this time of the year, because it's like you coming out of winter and it's been cold and raining. Sometimes you get snow and ice where we live at, and it's like you're opening up the door and you're stepping outside and be like, oh yeah, I can feel it coming. The flowers are starting to bloom. The mosquitoes are coming out and all that, and it's just you can put away the coats and start wearing a sweatshirt, and then some days you walk outside and be like, you know what, it's time to put on the shorts. So yeah, this is my favorite time of the year.
Right on. And this has got me a follow up question that just popped in my head. But let's move on. Let's hop down to Hitman, favorite season.
Oh, that's a tough one for me. 'Cause I work outside, so I get to experience all of them, no matter what. But I don't, I don't know. I mean, obviously, middle of summer, I'm not a big fan because it's hot. You know, wintertime, lots of snow. Doing a lot of shoveling or plowing snow. I love that. I don't like the hours, but I love doing that kind of work. But if I just being outside, I think I have to agree with the other guys there. In springtime, although Colorado, the springtime can get pretty crazy because we can get some pretty nasty snowstorms in the spring, or most people get, you know, was it April showers bring May flowers, but we get
Yeah.
April snow brings May flowers here if they don't freeze first. So I do like spring because I think it's you know, opens up into that, warmer weather's coming and starts getting nice out and you can start getting outside, start shedding some clothing and, yeah, get ready for summer.
Shedding clothing. Okay. All right. LC, favorite season.
Uh, it's always changed for me, I guess, Joe, through the years. Uh, Fall as a kid was like my favorite time because loved hunting. I still have a love for hunting, but it's got to where winter and cold weather, I don't like it. Spring, that's another good time. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I like all the seasons, but because I like a snowfall in the winter. I like the spring rains. I like the hot summer. You get to go to the lake, go camping. Like I said, if I had to pick one, it'd probably be summer. I mean, it's I work indoors, so in climate control, so I get to stay cool during the day. Get home in the evening, the 115-degree heat index. But summer would probably still be my favorite season, I guess, because longer daylight hours. Like I said, go to the lake, go swimming, go fishing, go tubing, wakeboarding, whatever. So I'd have to go with summer.
Yeah. And if I had to pick um, my favorite season, I like spring. I really, really like spring. But I'd probably have to go with summer. Um, I don't know. I work outside a lot, and yeah, it gets hot here in Arkansas. It gets damn hot. Uh, and but I I don't know. I prefer the summer. I guess over the spring because it's spring to me. It gives you a hint of the hey, nice, pleasant days. You go outside and have a short sleeve shirt on and do some activities, and then you get up the next morning. You're like, what the hell is this? It's freaking it's cold again for a couple of days. But me personally, I guess I would have to say I prefer the summertime. So now taking that, and we see Womblehead, he's picking spring and summer. And thank you for that chat interaction. We do encourage those that are watching to interact with the chat and give us your inputs. Give us your thoughts with whatever the topic is we're discussing. But now let's flip that around. Our favorite season. LC, what is the season that you dislike the most?
All right. Now I know I just said something that I did like about winter. I mean, here now where Scott lives, Hitman, it's drastic measures, just night and day from what we have. But it's nice, for like you get a snowfall, and here it'll last, be on the ground for a day or two, and it's gone.
Ah, I
But
agree, Caitlin.
the winter, I mean, the older I get, the more I hate cold. I mean, I just cannot stand it. It's like you can't put enough clothes on to stay warm if you're outside doing something. Like summertime, you can always go up under a shade tree, get a cold water or a cold beer, sit there with your sweat, a little breeze, cool off. But winter would be my most unfavorite time of the year, bar none. It sucks. That's me.
Exactly. All right. Hitman, least favorite season.
I don't know. It's again, I'm, I work outside, so none of them. I don't hate any of them as far as seasons go. Of course, Colorado. The big joke is there's winter,
And
winter
summer.
number one, winter number two, then spring, then winter again, and that's pretty much all the seasons we have. It seems like maybe a little bit of fall. But no, joking aside, there. I mean, the middle of summer, dog days of summer. That end of July, August. Sometimes September, depending on the year. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, and those were the worst months of the year. It was so hot, humid. I hated those working in those because you could go in the shade and still not get cool with all that humidity. But
Brother, come
so
down here. Come down south.
I know. I've been down there. I've been in there. Been down there. Been to Florida. I mean, I know what it's like, and it's terrible. That's why I live where I live because it's you know what they say. It's a dry heat.
Yeah.
Um,
And they say
that
it's a
saying
dry
everybody
cold,
loves
too.
to hear. Yeah. But it is true. I mean, there's a big difference between coming here to Colorado and how dry it is, and there's no humidity, there's no bugs, there's no nothing. But again, another long answer, but I'd have to say the middle of summer or summer maybe for me.
Well, if I can add something real quick. The only time I've ever been to Denver, I left the airport at Dallas Fort Worth. I think it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. We landed there, was it 3 hours? So around, say, 9, 10 o'clock. And there was 10 inches of snow on the ground. It was 6 degrees or something like that. And walked out waiting for the little transit bus to carry us to the rental car place. Uh, that was ridiculous. They say, oh, it's a different type of cold. It's not a wet cold. Bull. Cold is cold. But it was nice. I mean, snow everywhere. Seen snow for the whole week I was up there. But all right, just thought
All
I'd
right.
throw that in there.
Razor, least a favorite season.
I'd probably have to say wintertime because, the winters that we have sometimes, even though it's not as cold as other places down here in South Arkansas, normally, years past, sometimes it said it may not be as cold, but you get a lot of rain. It's like it's raining on a Monday, it's raining on a Tuesday. Look at there, it's raining on a Thursday. It rains all the time, and it's just sometimes it may get warm. It's real inconsistent on what it is. Like this past Christmas, it was what 75 degrees on Christmas Day here. and then a couple days later, I think it snowed, if I remember right. But it's like I'm kind of like LC. I would rather it be warm. I don't like the cold weather. I guess a lot of it's got to do with getting older, but it's just I don't like it. The ice, the snow. Now snow's cool, but let's get a little bit of snow, and the next day, let it be gone. I mean, what y'all? I guess y'all remember what was it last year, 2021, when we had
Yeah.
the big snow that stayed here for like a week long. Had to miss work for a week, which is something that hardly ever happens down here in South Arkansas. I mean, it was like
I loved it.
It was
when it was
20
what
inches. We had
three
20
three
inches.
degrees. Yeah, it got like 3 degrees here, and I'm like walked outside and like, nope, screw this. I'm going back inside. So yeah, wintertime, yeah, not I don't like it.
But to
Oh,
add something, what Scott just said, though, Christmas Day was, 74, 75 degrees here.
yeah.
Easter was just this past Sunday. I think our high temp was 63. It was
Yeah,
colder
We
here on Easter than it was in Christmas.
There were some places here where we live in Arkansas, or in the state of Arkansas, that were 20 degrees or more cooler on Easter Day than they were on Christmas Day. But
yeah.
all right, DC season you hate the most.
My, it's kind of a toss up. It's between winter and summer. I mean, I must probably have to say winter. Being up this part of Arkansas, I mean, it's nothing like Hitman up in Colorado, but I mean, it's further north than what I've ever been,
See,
lived at. And it just seemed like we got snow just every other week. It seemed like, and that just got annoying. Or like the ice that come through, it's just that got real annoying. I mean, yeah, you can add layers to keep warm, as other than like summer. There's only so much you can take off during summer before you catch a charge and get thrown in jail. But I think the activities in summer really just, I mean, yeah, the heat sucks, but I mean, there's so much you can do during the summer other than what you can do in winter. Now, if you're at a place, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in winter. Don't get me wrong. If you're in a place that like snowboarding or skiing, stuff like that. I mean, obviously those are things you could do in snow and colder environments. But here in Arkansas, I mean, you don't have too much snow to go snowboarding or go skiing or something like that. I mean, I remember that one year we had that snowstorm and ice storm that come through, and what we did is Clint pulled us on, I think, a trash can lid on the back of his four wheeler. That's the extent
that
of,
was the first. First, then we got
Yeah,
electricity for like
yeah,
20 minutes, and we aired up our
yeah,
freaking inner tube, and then really had
yeah.
fun.
yeah.
So I would probably have to say winter as well. I mean, it's kind of close for me. I just think the activities in summer beats winter, and then I would have to say fall. I love spring, but just fall coming around, you get football, you get the leaves changing. I mean that's also pretty up there. I mean I still think spring is better, but no one talked about fall yet really. I mean I'm not too much into hunting anymore, but like when I was younger, like getting fall, you're like, oh, it's getting close to deer season, or it's getting close to whatever, and it's football season. So I would have fall up there as well. I don't want to say anything too much about fall. I thought I give it its
Give it
justice.
its
Yeah,
props.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
terrible. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on with fall, but I think I like spring just a lot more.
Well, I'll add something else along with the wintertime. As it gets closer, fall goes into winter. Your days are getting shorter and shorter, and I really hate getting off at work at 4:30 p.m. and then usually after 10 minutes after I've been home because I'm about 15 minutes away from my job,
it's dark.
and then you look outside and it's dark. So when it's
Yeah,
dark, I get sleepy. So you look up and you think, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. And you look and say, oh, it's only 5:30. And
Yeah.
That's another to me another disadvantage of the wintertime that I don't like. Is those shorter days.
All right. I said I had a question or I had another thought that came up uh, as we were discussing favorite seasons and seasons you don't like. Um, do you think where you live now has an impact on why you think that way? And let's hop back down to a razor
Where I live at, do I think it has an impact on
on
the way I
on
feel
your
about
favorite season and the season you don't like. Do you think living where you live uh, is kind of biased you into thinking that way? If you lived somewhere else in the United States, do you think it
it?
would skew your thought process on that?
Yeah, okay. Like wintertime here, like I was saying, it's so inconsistent. One day in the wintertime, say in the middle of December, it may get up to 65 degrees. The next day you may have a thunderstorm. The next day it may snow. I think if I lived in an area maybe like Hitman in Colorado, where when wintertime comes, there's going to be snow. You know, whatever it starts, say November to April or whatever. You're the entire. To me, that would be winter because you walk out every day. It's cold every day. You walk outside. Okay, there's snow. Okay, it's supposed to snow tomorrow. So yeah, I mean down here, the wintertime is just always kind of funky. You never know. You have to watch the weather because you don't know what it's going to do day by day. You're like, well, do I wear a coat to work? Oh no, I don't have to wear one today because it's supposed to be 58 degrees today. So it's, yeah. If I lived in another place, northern part of the United States, Montana, which I don't know, that would be probably too extreme, but yeah, that would probably change. Because I think it would be nice to be able to see the snow. And I've been out to Utah, last year in March, and just seeing the snow on the mountains there in Salt Lake City. I mean, it's beautiful. And then you wake up the next morning and it's cold, and then you look and you say, "Oh, the snow! It must have snowed in the mountains because you can see where the snow line come down." So yeah, I mean, to me, that's a winter right there. That's what I think of. Winter, I think of snow and cold. And then you don't really get that at all the times down here.
Yeah, and let's go over to LC because you have recently moved from down here in the confines of way South Arkansas up to North Arkansas and have, you know, uh, what, a 4 hour drive from here, maybe roughly.
But boy, does
Um,
it make a difference.
yeah, it's, just going that far north. How has that impacted your thoughts, or has it impacted your thoughts on uh, favorite season or worst season? Um, give us a little input in that, having experienced a little bit of that little further north type
Yeah. Um,
latitude.
yeah. I mean, I think it definitely does. Um, I mean, obviously, it did not help winter at all. I mean, winter wasn't my top choice to begin with. Definitely not now with all the snow. And everyone says, "Oh, we don't get that much snow. We got too much. We got more snow than what we usually do." I don't care. It's more snow than what I ever deal with. Uh, so I mean, I guess I mean it really didn't help winter's case at all, honestly. I mean, but it makes choosing between my favorite one. Um, you know, being up here in Northwest Arkansas, you got the University of Arkansas. You know, majority of people in here are Razorback fans. Um, you got baseball during the springtime and summer. You don't have too much going on during summer, but there's so much stuff to do up here. I mean, you can find something. I mean, there's lakes you can go to, either to fish or to swim. There's I mean top golf up here. I mean, there's so much more to do down here than what it is down south. So I mean that it kind of makes summer a little bit more intriguing. That where you don't have to go an hour's away to go do something like it's just to go to the mall. I mean, you would still have to go you know hour and a half to over to Texarkana, or 2 hours down to Shreveport, or 2 hours up to Little Rock. I mean, And then get coming around to fall. I mean, you got obviously football starting. I mean, being a raceback fan my entire life. I mean, that's you know I'm right down the interstate or right up the interstate from the university. I mean, that's so. I mean, it's made it hard to choose which one my favorite is. Um, really hasn't changed anything on what my least favorite season is.
Season.
Yeah. I mean, summer's I mean also the summer. I mean they got the uh, minor league affiliate to the Royals. I mean it's literally right across the road from me. I mean they go all the way until like what September or August I think. Actually it's September. I mean there's that to do during the summer. And I mean literally all I have to do is cross the road and I'm at the stadium. I mean like I said it's made it where my favorite isn't as clear cut as it has been, but my least favorite really hasn't changed at all. Like, yeah, I mean, I like the snow. There's just it's just too much sometimes.
Yeah.
Granted, that's coming from a guy living in Northwest Arkansas with a guy living in Colorado who deals with
Yeah.
a lot of snow. But
And
Feet,
that's one
feet
thing I
of
want to
snow.
get in. That's one thing I want to get into because talk about it just dawned on me about living in one area and then moving to a different. Hitman, you are not originally from Colorado. You came from a little further north, correct?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was almost to Canada, but once you live in Michigan, that's almost part of Canada. But
Canada.
y- yeah, it's a big difference even in winters. Too. I mean, we get a lot of snow here, but we also get a lot of melting. It's not like in Michigan it can snow, in November, December, and that snow can stick around until the beginning of April before it melts, depending on the season. I mean, it's not uncommon for it to stick around. I think the last few years they haven't had as bad of winters, and they've had rain come along where it warms up to 40 and it actually melts. But now you get up to northern Michigan and across the straits, or I guess the UP, where the Upers are,
Yeah.
where I used to go deer hunting all the time, and you're shoveling 3 feet of snow just to build your hunting camp, too. And yes, we used to sleep in tents up in northern Michigan in the middle of winter to go deer hunting. Um, I know it sounds crazy, but it was actually pretty warm. Um, so yeah, coming from Michigan to Colorado, it's a big difference. And you know, it, I've been joking around in chat about the dry heat and dry cold and all that. I mean, but there is some truth to it. When you come from a climate that's a lot of humidity to one that has none, when you're surrounded by Great Lakes at Michigan, you know, the humidity is always high. You come to Colorado, there's hardly any lakes or rivers. All the rivers are called Sand Creek because they don't have anything in them but sand. Everything is dry out here and dried up. Um, but to me, yeah, there's definitely a difference in the summertime or the wintertime. If it gets above 32 degrees, 35 degrees and the sun's out, I can wear a light coat here. In Michigan, you ain't doing that. You're wearing a heavy coat because it's much colder. Of course, being 6,000 feet closer to the sun helps too.
Oh yeah. Because you're way up there, higher up in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
elevations.
yeah, and it
Uh,
depends. If you go to the mountains, you could be anywhere from 8 to 10. If you go on top of a peak, you're 14,000 feet up. It gets pretty crazy how the weather changes so much. Because 6,000 feet, you're really hot. You get to 8,000, you're gonna drop probably 10 degrees. You get to 14,000, and you're back to freezing again.
yeah. And that's one thing, that made me think about, where you live because at one time I was married and lived in up in Missouri, and the winters are pretty dramatic up there at times. And the one thing I remember about it is the wind. Now I can tolerate the cold. I can tolerate the snow. But when you get the wind starting to blow, and I'm not sure because I've not spent a winter in Colorado, but I'm sure that the mountains produces a downdraft and a wind that's got to always be there in the
Yeah,
wintertime.
that does get pretty bad. And speaking of that, I mean, we've had this whole month of April. What are we going into? I don't even know. What are we
Right in the
second and a
middle of
half week of April? Dude,
yeah,
we have had nothing but winds, and I don't mean a breeze. I mean 15 to 30 mile an hour winds, constant winds every day with gusts of 60 miles an hour.
They've been
It
here
is
too.
irritating. It's crazy. I know we're in a La Nina year, which I've been hearing everybody talk about around here for weather guys, anyways. That we tend to get more wind during a La Nina year,
yeah.
and that's what we're in now. But man, it has just been miserable the last couple weeks here with that. So yeah, I hate wind.
All right, now and continuing with this direction, where you live, does that make an impact on your favorite or least favorite seasons? LC, not only have you lived here in South Arkansas, but you lived way down in South Louisiana, like the other extreme of the scale, you know. So, does that impact um, what your thoughts would be on favorite or least favorite?
Well, yeah, actually it would. Uh, like I said, down there, it'd be a right flip flop. Winters were mild. I mean, you still mow your grass down there at November up to December. Uh, doesn't get cold down there. I think the coldest day I ever experienced was around 39, 38 degrees. But the summers are absolutely freaking brutal. We think we have some, what do they call that stuff? Heat indexes here. The crazy thing about living down there, middle of summer, say like July and August, like most people were, it's like cold winter. You go out, you crank your vehicle up, and you turn the heater on. I would go out about 10 minutes before I'd go to work, turn my truck on, hit the AO Max or the Aero Max wide open to cool the truck down. It'd be like 85 degrees, 100% humidity. It was freaking miserable. But uh, with the question he asked, yes, it would definitely make a difference in what I'd pick for a favorite season or whatever living down there. Because summers were freaking unbearable.
Yeah,
But
and
winters
I
are
can imagine.
winters are nice. Get a little rain. That's about it. But yeah, it was hot down there.
Yeah, and speaking of
Damn hot.
nice summers or whatever, I was um, in the Navy, and my when I got sent to my active duty station, my ship, I was stationed in Hawaii for 4 years, and that was unbelievable. But most people think Hawaii, yeah, it's perfect weather year round, which it is, but in during the wintertime, because you get acclimated to uh, the summers and all of that stuff. In the wintertime, it may drop down to 65 degrees, and you're like, ooh, I got to get a jacket. Uh, it's kind of cool out here tonight because, I you get acclimated to where you're at. If Womble, who was over here in chat, he worked up in what was it, Montana in the wintertime, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I remember he told me at one time was he said, you kind of get used to it being cold. And I'm like, there's no way in hell. No way in hell. You get used to it being cold, but I can actually understand that where you live at, you kind of get used to what those weather conditions are like. And if you say if you were born and raised in Montana and used to those winters and all that, and I don't know if they have a dry or wet type of cold or heat in the summers, but if you were to move there after 20 years and move down to say Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
You'd die.
you're gonna freaking die because you're gonna be like, what the hell is this? And it might be springtime. It may be 70 degrees, and you're like, what the frick is this? So I do think, you know, where you live, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going while you're on that subject is, born and raised in South Arkansas, joined the military, like you. I was in the Navy, crossed uh, the equator, middle of summer. It was hot. Okay, then get deployed to Iraq. I'm thinking, okay, I'm from South Arkansas. I can deal with this heat. It was hot over there, 130 degrees, okay, but there's no humidity there, suffered through it, made it through it.
But is that
Come
is
home.
that is that a all right? Before you go on, 120, degrees. Now we've had some pretty high temperatures, triple digits, here in South Arkansas with the humidity. You said it's a dry heat. Could you differentiate the
Oh
difference
yeah,
between being here, or is
oh,
it
yeah,
just because it's hot? Is it over
yeah,
there 130 degrees? Does
yeah.
that seem hotter?
Well, to me, it was hot. Here you got the heat and humidity, which the heat index and all that. So you're automatically sweating when you walk outside. Over there, it was just hot. It was like being in a furnace the whole time. Especially in the summertime. And then the sandstorms come in, and there's wind, hot, just like somebody's like Mama could attest to this. Because he was there with me. It's like somebody's got a hair dryer blowing on you the entire time. Well, then 4 years ago, whatever, get deployed to Africa. I'm thinking, okay, they're talking about, oh, it's hot over there. It's hot. I was like, I've been to Iraq. I can deal with this. No, you get over there, you're right there on the coast. Then you throw in that humidity. Now that was the most miserable time, most miserable year of my life because now you got the heat of 108, 109 degrees, but then you throw in that humidity, and I'm like this. Why in the hell would these people want to live in that area? That was my thinking. And then you get back here, and then the next summer, of course, I got back in December. So next summer rolls around, it's getting up to 98, 100 degrees. I'm like, for the first couple of years I was back, I was like, this ain't nothing. But now, since I've been back, for a while, yeah, it's the heat and humidity gets you. So yeah.
All right, let me talking about heat and humidity. Hitman, you were talking about there was a difference in the cold in the winters between Michigan. That's a more wet cold up there as opposed to Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know when people talk about dry heat or dry cold or that kind of stuff. I definitely can tell the difference. I was back in Michigan for Christmas this winter. And seems like every year I go back, I get colder. Just because you can feel that humidity when you're used to, 10 to 15% humidity is nothing. And even in the summertime, it gets hot here. When it's 80 degrees, to me, it's hot. Don't get me wrong. It's a different hot because you get baked by the sun. But you don't have that extra kick of the humidity, just drenching you with sweat all day long because it's a lot drier. That's why I mean, that's why we have
So
so many fires and everything here too.
the the wet cold or the humid cold is colder.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, cold is cold. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's definitely cold, and if you get wind with it, you're definitely going to be cold. But I mean, kind of where I live right now in southern Colorado, it gets, you know, it's unusual, I'll say, for it to be frigid cold for a long period of time. I mean, we might have a day or two, but you're not going to have a week long, in the teens or negative, super negative temperatures. Um, but we get some storms, in the winter with some big winds that drive that wind chill down and make it cold. But you better know how to layer up, like I think Wombo said in the chat, because if you don't, you definitely freeze. But
Yeah.
I would definitely say, you know, the higher you are in elevation too, it changes. Um, if you're above that 7,000 to 8,000 feet, um, which there's a lot of towns that are about 8,000 feet up in the mountains, or if you're going skiing, you better definitely learn how to layer because you get up that high in the winter and it's always windy.
Hey, well,
Okay. Go
on
ahead.
that,
Go
I
ahead.
have seen, like videos, people out there in Colorado, like Steamboat Springs skiing. And, maybe they have like a good thermal base layer, but it's like they're not bundled up like I would think people would be. They're like, looks like they got just like a jumpsuit and that's it.
Yeah, it depends on the days, honestly. And there's days where the sun's out and it's clear. What makes it cold here is Colorado gets 300 days of sunshine. We hardly, we don't have those dark,
Really?
gloomy winter cloudy days. No, you don't
Huh.
have those long periods of cloudy days. And again, it's unusual to go more than a couple days of just overcast skies and being dark and not seeing the sun. Some of the days are really deceiving because you look outside and you're like, man, it's really, sunny out. It looks nice. And you step outside and it's cold because you have no cloud cover
Uh,
to hold in some of that heat. You know what I mean?
exactly.
It kind of goes away. So I think some of what you see on people skiing is they've learned how to um, get the right thermal underwear and buy the right clothing to where you're wearing layers, but you're not like the kid, walking out of the house with you can't even bend your knees or
Yeah,
your arms are straight out in front of you because
like a
you
Christmas
have so
story.
much. Oh, yeah, exactly, like Christmas Story.
All
Or you get
right.
all dressed and you're like, I gotta pee, or go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
yeah, that's pretty much what you're seeing is true. And it looks very deceiving to watch or see that on a TV or a video. You're like, man, everybody looks really warm. It's nice and sunny, but it's actually pretty cold.
And like we've been talking about being acclimated and all that, but let's go a little further into elevation. As of course, uh, you go higher in elevation, up in 7, 8,000 feet. The air is thinner. Does that make a difference in how it feels? Or
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're just talking about your body overall, definitely. So what, like, if you go to like any chamber of commerce or Colorado, town or their websites or whatever, one of the first things you're going to see on there is drink plenty of water before you come to Colorado, because and any western state that's high, because one, it's dry, and the higher you get, the less oxygen you have, and that water really helps with that. But yeah, I mean, I live here in Colorado Springs by Pikes Peak, and I've been up Pikes Peak dozens of times. You get to 14,115 feet, you know it, because you step out of the car and you start making steps towards the summit house or just to go look at the edge, and you don't, there's no air up there.
Huh.
It shows up pretty quick. And you see people that get out of their cars and they leave pretty quick. And it's because they're getting headaches, they start getting dizzy. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of altitude sickness that shows up pretty quick depending on your body. I mean, there's even um, supplements and stuff that you can take to add
Hey,
more oxygen to your blood to adapt a lot better to it. But if you tested someone's blood, in Colorado versus where you guys live, it would probably be the oxygen level would probably be different um, in it for sure.
So that plays effect in, say, if I came from here in the middle of winter and went up on Pikes Peak, would that elevation difference from me being down here, say, roughly 400 feet above sea level, going to that 14,000 feet, would that in the middle of winter from here to there, would it feel colder to me just because of that?
Yeah, you're gonna notice. I mean, so let's just say if you go up Pikes Peak, it's not uncommon for, let's say, the city of Colorado Springs to be 40 degrees, or in the wintertime, we'll just pick 40. By the time you get to the summit of Pikes Peak, you could easily, depending on the weather up there, because the weather up there changes so fast. It's crazy. If anybody's ever watched the Pikes Peak hill climb, you'll you'll see where they actually have weather delays, because and guys that go up that even talk about, they start out in the sun, then they hit a patch of rain, then they get hail, little bits of hail as they're going up, and then snow, all the way up that. So that's, if you're going up there in the wintertime, that's something that you can definitely run into. And, you could easily see a 30-degree temperature drop from, the city to the top of Pikes Peak, easily.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. And those are things that I've never really thought about um, until we got in here discussing this. That I understand if you lived in one area, grew up there, and then moved to a completely different area, eventually your body will acclimate. But I never really thought about that elevation change or whatever.
Yeah, and just a little bit, one more thing on that too. Like when I moved out here, all I wanted to do was sleep. And I'm like, why am I so tired? And everybody's like, well, it's your body getting used to the, thinner air. So you're going to be more tired and fatigued because of that. So, and people that come on vacation, I know I've had family and friends and people come out here, and like the first day or so, they may not notice it. By like that third day, it's like that third day, it's like they don't want to do anything except rest. Depending on what we've done too, because it wears you out. Just that thin air.
Yeah.
I can remember a quick story after I moved out here. One of the first times I went back east and I drove, and I can remember we stopped in Kansas, of all places, and I remember getting out. It was the summertime, so it was hot. I remember getting out of the car and that humidity hitting me like, holy cow, what is this? I haven't experienced this in over a year. And it was, I mean, it really shows you how much change there is and how much it does affect your body, and what you feel. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's crazy.
All right. Well, let's kind of transition from the seasons here. Um, and let's move into different types of weather. And my brother LC shared a little thing in our Discord here, and I learned something right off the bat. And I know we're talking about cold right now at the moment, and this will fit right in. Um,
I
Different
think
weather
Hitman had a
phenomenon.
video to share too, like a 2 minute video that was
Yeah,
kind of
and we'll try to
wild.
play that here in a minute because I that just blew me away. I'm sure I knew about it going on, but because I didn't actually live in Colorado when this was going on, it didn't affect me as much in the same sense. The flooding or the tornadoes that we've had here, I'm sure Hitman probably heard about them, but didn't really get ingrained in the memory as much. But The first thing that I read on here, a blizzard. I did not know this. It's defined by visibility and not by the amount of snowfall. I do not know that. And it's mainly due to the the wind associated with a blizzard. And we don't have that down here. If we have, I've never experienced it. And I've been around for quite a few years on this earth and mostly living in South Arkansas. Um, but I did not know. I always envisioned a blizzard as snowing its ass off and the wind blowing freaking crazy to the point you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you and all that. But it has nothing really to do with the amount of snow, it's the wind.
Yeah, I can actually vouch for that. I've been through a few blizzards here in Colorado.
And it's more the amount of wind than even snow because I can see I have seen it. We've had snow in Arkansas and the wind will blow and it'll kind of blow the little bit of snow off the ground. But so a blizzard is more the wind than anything, if I'm correct.
So is a whiteout another name for blizzard?
Well, if I'm reading it right, a whiteout is a result, can be a result of a blizzard, right? Hitman.
Yeah, I mean it's all driven by wind. I mean it depends on. I mean, so I know in Michigan something we always talked about were snow squalls that would come off the lakes, and they wouldn't be per se a blizzard and didn't have a lot of wind, but you would have a whiteout condition where you would have heavy snow coming down to where you could barely see the front of the hood of your car or something if you were driving. So I think you can't have that condition without having a blizzard condition whiteout with a lot of wind. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Okay, well,
Um,
on that thought, this is living from down in South Louisiana. You're right there. What was it? 80 miles from the coast. The humidity coming off the freaking Gulf of Mexico is the moisture that you get is ridiculous. Now, as far as a whiteout condition, as far as like a wintertime fall, not fog, the snow, blizzard, whatever, I have never in my life experienced fog like I have down there. On like the early summer, it's it's unbelievable. It's spooky. It kind of reminds you of that dang Stephen King movie, The Fog, because you can't see 20 foot in front of you on the highway. It's pretty spooky.
Now, and I can vouch for that in a completely, entirely different location in the country. When I was in the Navy, I spent my first year up in just north of Chicago in Great Lakes. So I got to experience the lake effect snow, and that shit sucks. Um, the summer, spring, winter, fall up there. After that, I went to my advanced school in Vallejo, California. Vallejo is straight across the bay from San Francisco. And if anybody's watched, what's that, Mythbusters, um, a lot of the stuff that they would do and test at Mare Island, which is right, that's where I was stationed at going through my school. They talk about the fog in San Francisco, and it seemed like every day you wake up and it's fog so thick you could cut it with a knife. And by 9 or 10 o'clock, um, it was burnt off. But it really wasn't a humidity. It was because of I guess, the jet stream and the temperature of the waters, and it would get just cool enough at night, it would be just crazy fog. And so I've experienced some of that similar fog, like what you're talking about, but that's associated with being close proximity, uh, like to the ocean, because that's where the moisture comes in. Down there in Louisiana, it's coming out of the Gulf Coast of the coast of California. It's moving in that way. But one thing, talking about going back to about this blizzard and stuff, and let me see if I can do this here. If I can switch screens real quick, did that bring that over here? We're gonna watch this YouTube video real quick. This was 2019, I believe, right, Scott?
Yeah. Yep.
Hitman. Um,
Correct.
Bomb cyclone, and we're just gonna play this. Hopefully, nothing gets demonetized. No, that's the wrong play button. Here we go.
No volume.
Here's good old ad for you right there. But yeah, a bomb cyclone. What in the heck is over there?
Dude, it's a hurricane. Yeah.
A
In the middle.
hurricane in the mountains in winter.
Yeah, dude, that has to be one of the craziest things, weather events I have ever been in. So I'm gonna set the day for you because you've seen some of the worst of it. So of course the weather people, news, everybody was talking about this for a few days that we were gonna get this weather, right? Everybody went panic shopping, emptied out the grocery stores, that kind of stuff, because you're gonna be stuck in your house for 4 days or whatever. And that morning of the storm, it was clear skies, sunny, and nice out. And the weather guys kept telling everybody, look, we need to close schools. We need, people need to just stay home because as soon as it hits afternoon, noon and after, it's going to get bad. Well, nobody listened. And everybody did their normal day because they woke up and they're like, oh, well, we didn't get the storm because that happens. They predict bad storms, and we've had days where we don't hardly get anything or don't get anything. So people were thinking it was going to be one of those days. It hit about, well, I got to work and we were doing some things talking about it because we do snow removal. So we were trying to plan our day out, figure out what to do for the day. and we had already determined it was just going to be a shop day, working on trucks, fixing things, just kind of doing that kind of stuff to be ready when the storm hits. Well, it started snowing, and we have some properties that are zero tolerance, which means as soon as it starts snowing, somebody needs to get there and check it out, put product down, make sure no slip and falls, that kind of stuff. We drove to those, which would be on a normal day, would take about 20 minutes from our shop to get to most all of them. We did that driving out. Went to all of them. Everybody's calling me and they're like, yeah, there's nothing, nothing. I'm like, yeah, I'm not seeing anything yet. Let's just head back to the shop and we'll probably just go call it a day and then just, come in the morning like we normally would for a snow event at about 2 o'clock in the morning and then go out, and start doing snow removal. As we were going back to the shop, the storm came in. Driving back, I could not see the plow on the front of my truck. And I was doing probably 10, 15 miles an hour trying to get, just because I couldn't see to get back to the shop. So what normally took me 20 minutes to do took me an hour and a half to get back. Some of the guys, it took them over 3 hours to get back to the shop. Now, we planned a little bit ahead of time and bought a bunch of food and stuff to have at the shop and ready in case we got snowed in. And I'm glad we did because I called my boss, the owner of the company, and said, look, when everybody gets back here, we're not going anywhere. Nobody's leaving. One guy that was with me tried to leave and go home, and he got stuck in our driveway trying to get out because we have an open field and it just, it had already, within an hour and a half, had already had a good 4 or 5 foot drift going across our parking lot.
Dang.
So it changed, in a hurry. And some of that stuff you can see real quick in that video, I-25, which is the main highway through Colorado. There were more than 1,000 cars that were stranded on the highways, and they had to take snowcats out, like all over, up in Denver, down where I am, and rescue.
We don't know what a snowcat is.
So,
We have no clue.
a snowcat is basically a big. It's what they use to groom ski areas too, but it basically has big rubber tracks on it. It's a big. Just think of a farm tractor with rubber tracks on it, and that's with no attachments or implements on it, and that's pretty much what it is. They were using those, though, to go out on the highway to pick people up because people had gotten stuck. Semis got stuck, which stuck everybody else on the highway, which blocked the highway. And then, like they even said in there, people were running out of gas because they didn't fill their cars up. It was just a big mess, and it took 48 hours at least to get all the cars off the highway after the storm went through. But it is one of the craziest things that I have ever been in. A couple of those guys came back. The workers came back and actually got stuck in the parking lot with our plow trucks, and we had to go out there and try to dig them out with, skids, other machines to try to, get them into where we were at least inside. I tell you what, when you're in 80-mile-an-hour winds and it's snowing, that snow hurts. It hurts. It feels like it feels like you're getting acupuncture that you don't want. It feels like a bunch of little needles just poking you on whatever exposed skin that you have. I had to put safety glasses on just because it was hurting my eyes if, I looked into it or even was close to looking into it. It is just the craziest thing I have ever been in.
All right.
And
Hey, Jeff, watching the chat over here, which made me think about this when Scott was talking about that, going through an extreme weather event. I seen what Razor put over here, so we'll let him go. And I think he's probably got what he put over here. It's going to be his topic. But what is like the worst weather event you've ever been through? And we'll let Scott go with or
Razor.
yeah, Razor Scott.
Yeah. The other Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, kind of, like Hitman was talking about how the snow was just to where you couldn't see the front of your vehicle, basically. That's why I put, is a sandstorm related to weather? I mean, is it a product of weather, like a hurricane, tornado, a blizzard, or something like that? Because in Iraq, usually about July to about September, I guess, and even when I was in Africa, about that same time, those western winds start blowing across. Of course, I was on the eastern coast of Africa, but those western winds, the locals say, I forget what they called it, but when those western winds start blowing across the country, coming across the Atlantic Ocean, it causes sandstorms there, which they're not as bad. Some of the guys we was over there with were like, "Oh, this is a bad sandstorm." I said, "No, you've never been in a sandstorm." Because I remember
Haboob. Is
being
that
in
what it was
Kuwait.
called?
I don't know what they called it.
Haboob. I mean,
yeah.
that's
That's
the
That may
sandstorm,
that may be
sand
what they.
event.
Yeah, but I remember being in Kuwait, and right before we first got there, and you spend a couple of weeks in Kuwait, to get acclimated to the weather and all that, because even if you've ever been to Kuwait, even in March when we got there, it's already 100 degrees.
Never
And
been there.
where we was at, I think Camp Victory, we're in the tent, and we go down to the MRO tent, to um, play pool or ping pong or whatever, chilling out, me and some of the guys. And when we come out, been in there about an hour, it just everything is like orange, the cloud, and you can see it. I'm sure y'all have seen videos of it. You can see it just like starting to roll in, and by the time we took about 50 steps, it started hitting, and I was scared. Even though I got 8 or 9 guys with me, knowing we had to walk, maybe a quarter of a mile back to our tent where we were sleeping at, you couldn't see nothing. And same thing in Iraq. Coming down the MSR, the main supply route. When we was escorting our convoys. I mean, it's just you could see a wall of sand. It would be nice and sunny, and you could see it up there, and kind of like maybe I think it's that movie, The Mummy, or something like that, or The Scorpion King, where you just
yeah,
see it's like a wall, and then when you drive into it, you can't see nothing, and that's why I said, is that I would guess it'd be a product of weather, because I mean there's wind that's blowing it around, but it's not like a thunderstorm or anything, or like that. But I mean it's it's weird, if you've never experienced it, because you're driving and you can't see maybe 5 feet in front of your Humvee, and you're escorting 60 to 50, convoy trucks, and when you come out of it, it's just like it's kind of weird. It's like you're going through another dimension of time, because you drive through it, and for an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden you just drive out of it, and you're like everything's clear. It's That's probably one of the weirdest types of weather I've ever been in. I've been in thunderstorms, tornadoes, been in a hurricane and stuff like that. But I mean, that to me, that was like, and Wamba was there. He was, yeah.
well,
He may have been in a truck with me, but it was just it's
well, he
weird.
just
You can't explain
popped
it.
up in chat, said, "Tell him it rains mud."
Yes, it does. It does rain mud over there too. Because usually about October, when all the sandstorms are going away, it kind of cools off a little bit, and then when it rains, it it's raining mud, because
Not me
it's
and
crazy.
mud.
Bud.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. All right. Uh, Speaking about storms and things like that, let's get a.
Well, just a weather situation that
Yeah.
you
DC.
know. Yeah.
Um, what is the most impactful or
Oh, I've got a couple. I think.
storm
Extreme.
extreme storm you have ever experienced?
Uh, well, it's not really anything that I've really experienced like that. I mean, unlike, I mean, all y'all, Clint's lived down in Louisiana. He's experienced, you know, weather down there in Louisiana. I mean, you got, Hitman up in Colorado. I mean, you and Dad, y'all been stationed in the Navy and the military and all these other places and experienced some of these storms. I'd say the most impactful one, and we really didn't get like the full brunt of it. But when Hurricane Katrina come through, I mean, we still felt the effects of it. Even when it was lost all its power. I mean, I remember we were up there at Clint's that time, and it when it was coming through, and we lost power up there. I mean, that's probably about the only thing I could say the most impactful one. I mean, and really, well, that was just thunderstorms. Um, but I guess just everything else that everyone else had to go through with Hurricane Katrina. I guess that would be my most impactful weather event or what have you um, that I've experienced. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been in numerous thunderstorms and stuff like that. I mean, I would say the tornado that come through about 3 weeks ago when we had the snow,
yeah.
um, that was literally on the other side of the interstate from us.
Hmm.
But we were asleep. Like we didn't know anything. We didn't hear any sirens go off. We didn't hear, usually you got all these phones, they got all these weather alerts on there. None of them went off. I mean, it had come through like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And we had no idea. So I really wouldn't even say that. And it was like a F3 tornado. It just hit the other side of Springdale from us. Um, so I mean, I guess I could say that, but I wouldn't because I didn't know it happened until I got up to go to work, and then they were like, "Oh, there's a tornado." I was like, "Do what?" And you
Yeah.
know, so I'd have to say probably the outer bands of Katrina when it come through back in what 05, 06. Is
All
that when
right.
it was?
Let's see.
I think.
Katrina. Yeah, I'll mention that here in just a minute. But there was a more recent hurricane that came through. I can't remember the
Oh,
name. You'll have to help me. But the hurricane was
uh,
so strong when it came in, it was actually still a hurricane when it came into Arkansas.
that was
Uh,
last summer.
yeah. What was the name of that? But
Was it
going
Rita? It wasn't Rita, was it?
No,
no, but going back to Katrina, yeah, that was a bad storm. Um, I remember before the morning before it came here,
Laura.
living in South Arkansas, looking up in the sky and seeing seagulls that were
Oh,
being blown up into South Arkansas, pelicans, coast birds uh, were, they knew to get the hell out of there and move up this way. We had seagulls, we had pelicans all over the place. Katrina was pretty bad, but that one, what was that one last year that came up that actually,
Hurricane Laura.
Laura.
Laura? Laura.
Laura.
Now I
Yes.
typed. I looked up strongest hurricane of 2021 and it's popped up Sam, but I don't even
No,
know.
it was
I didn't
Laura.
know Sam.
Hurricane Laura was actually still
Yeah.
considered a Category 1 hurricane when it made the Arkansas state line.
Yes. And that is what, 6.5 hours, six and a half hours from the Gulf.
Yeah.
It was still a hurricane. Um, Razor. Um, Worst storm uh, in your history around here you have ever experienced. And this, this snow, tornado, flood, whatever.
Well, I would probably say a couple years ago when I was down at Camp Shelby down at Hattiesburg. I was down there for about a
Oh,
month going through
yeah.
school with the National Guard. And the hurricane, of course, if you're not familiar with Hattiesburg, it's about an hour north of Biloxi and Gulfport. And I think that's where it made landfall. And it was they were expecting it to be so bad that they said, they shut our school down and they said, hey, nobody leaves base after 7 p.m. because it was supposed to hit about 9 p.m. They said, if you got to go to Walmart, get whatever, go get it and come back and just stay in your room. We weren't on lockdown, but they kind of suggested that we be on lockdown. And I forget what the name of the storm was. This was 2022, 2019, I guess, when I was down there in 2020. And it it started blowing in, and
Mm.
luckily it hit in between Hattiesburg and Mobile, where I guess where the I crossed through, but we were on the outer bands, and I think I was talking to my daughter Amy, and I think I maybe even talked to Dakota, send him some videos of it, and it was pretty wild. I mean, they didn't have any damage, but I was like, it's the first time I ever been, actually through a hurricane, and the way you could see the wind kind of whipping, kind of like lore when it come up, how you can see the clouds swirling around, and that was probably, I wasn't really scared, but I was kind of nervous, but I mean that's probably the most extreme weather that I've been in, other than the snowstorm we had a little over a year ago here. That
Hitman, in your time here on Earth, worst storm you have ever endured?
I'd have to say the bomb cyclone. I know I lived in Ohio for a bit, and we used to have a lot of tornadoes and stuff that I remember being through as a kid, but I think I was more sheltered and didn't, maybe understand or know the full totality of what was going on in those situations. Where the bomb cyclone, I knew every bit of what was going on because, one, my job revolves around working outside, and obviously we did snow removal, like I said. So that has to be probably one of the worst weather events I've been through. I've seen, now we have had a wildfire here, or yeah, I guess it would be a wildland fire, that caused its own weather phenomenon.
Yeah.
Um,
That was,
because
yeah.
that was one of the craziest things I have ever seen. I have never seen fire move so fast as it did that day. I know a fire is not technically a weather, event, but the fire itself created this weather event that caused 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds to blow down, downdraft down the mountain, and within a matter of an hour or two, there was 500 houses on fire that
And it
you could
caused,
see from anywhere in the city, and that's probably one of the craziest things that I ever seen. And again, we had guys in that area that were barely getting out of there like everybody else. Um, it's amazing that only two people died in that whole thing. But the bomb cyclone is definitely the craziest weather event um, that I've been in, and then watching that, wildfire create its own weather storm or weather event with the storm of you know, blowing down the mountain and almost having rain at the same time. It was just weird.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that here in just a minute because that gave me some get reminding me of an incident. But LC, worst, or did we start with you?
no,
I don't know. I can't
I
remember.
brought the idea up.
Yeah, you brought it up. Did you give? You are go
No,
ahead and give us
you know,
worst worst storm.
I've been, well, living in South Louisiana, I did experience a hurricane, but it was nothing like what, you see the Weather Channel, you're watching all the things that they do on their specials for storms. It was just rain like I never seen for about 15 minutes, and it was done. That was about 96 Hurricane Danny that come through, but got a couple days off work for it. But I think the absolute worst thing I ever been through in my life to date, and I want to say it was 99 or 2000. I had just moved back up here to Arkansas from Louisiana, and we had an ice storm.
Oh,
And that's one thing that Arkansas typically will get. We don't get snow. It'll either be rain.
that was the
You might
98
get
or 99
it,
somewhere
it
in
was
there.
something like that. But I can remember the damage because we had like 3/4 to an inch of ice, like freezing rain turned and just all the trees and breaking power lines. I think it was like 2 weeks we were out of power. So I mean, that was probably the worst thing I ever experienced. And plus, it was in the winter and it was cold, and I don't like the cold. But I would have to say probably that.
Well, I'm looking right now. I'm trying to remember what year exactly it was. Um, the tornado came through our town in South Arkansas. It started in Hope, Arkansas, is where it first touched down, and it varied from a half a mile to almost a mile and a half wide on its path. It traveled 192 miles on the ground. Um, went from Hope, Arkansas, all the way across uh, southeast direction in Arkansas, went into Mississippi, um, and Razor knows this was the one that went through. Um,
Our front yard.
no, no, this we were
Oh
living
no, this
in
was
East
later.
Camden. Yeah, yeah, we were living in East
Yeah.
Camden at the time. We had relatives that lived in the Fairview area. It picked a house up, turned it uh, a quarter turn on its foundation, set it back down. Um, that was probably the worst storm that I ever experienced. And if there had to be a weather event that it was 78 or 79, maybe. I'm thinking. I think it was in 78. Um,
April 9th, 1979.
1979. Yeah. It was 172, 192 miles. It stayed on the ground. Hope, Arkansas. It made its way all the way to, yeah, exactly right.
All right, but real
There,
quick, Jeff, actually it's April 8th. Associated Press, Campbell, Arkansas. At least 23 persons were injured and about 50 homes destroyed today when a tornado touched down in the southern Arkansas community. Yeah, that was
yeah, and it was, and when it came through here, in our area where we lived, it was a mile wide path of destruction, um, which is similar. I think was it just this past year, the tornadoes that came out of northeast Arkansas, up close to where our cousin lives, that went up through Kentucky and destroyed all of that. That one almost topped the record, but I'm not saying, hey, setting a record for a storm is anything uh, to be proud of, but that storm was that that was yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
cause I can remember what the sky looked like. It just looked like a movie, greenish,
yeah.
blackish, bluish, just
It's
and
like where did
it's like
the
the weather's
sky's
just
not supposed to be them colors.
yeah, and it's just like it was just calm. and then the next thing you know, within 3 seconds, it was like raining, wind blowing. It was just, I mean, it had been raining. All of a sudden, it just stopped. It's like it's all right. I'm taking a deep breath. Now here it comes again. And once it started, it was like, oh my god, this is it. I remember that.
And that's almost after I got out of the Navy. And I have to put this as a tie for the worst storm I went through. Uh, Myself, LC, and Razor, we were at our house. I'd gotten out of the Navy. We were sitting down in my room playing some football game thing on my computer.
Joe
And
Montana football, Sega Genesis.
yeah, and got to hearing something hitting the window. I was like, what the heck is that? They're sitting there playing. I get up and I look at them. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Um, it was early, early evening. It should have been sun shining, everything going on. Uh, where the room I was in,
Well, I know
yeah,
Mother and Daddy, they had went to church, so I would say it was around 5 in the
five
evening
ish,
on a
five
Sunday
ish.
evening. I know that
Should
for a
have been,
fact.
it should have been sun shining, everything going okay. We're not paying attention. We're on the computer. We're doing this, or whatever we're doing. I get up and look out, and off of my room, there were sliding glass doors to a screened in back porch. Um, the wind started picking up. I opened the sliding door, and we had two dogs. They busted through the door to the screened in back porch. I mean, came in,
I remember.
and they immediately went to the living room and laid down. We're like, what the heck's going on? Um, and then the wind and the rain started, and it a tornado, the wind blowing. It was raining and blowing the wind in the attic eve, and it was like there was a thunderstorm raining down in our parents' bedroom. Just rain coming in from the attic because the wind was blowing it in there. We're like, what the
Well,
heck?
what I can remember about that, this was probably 70, it was no more than 100 yards. There's like a big pasture out beside our house. Like you had our yard right here, and it had a big field. And I can remember seeing a big pine tree because up here there was a hill. What we call here a bull pine. It's like a stony pine tree in a local
Yeah,
area.
strong pine.
Big. I'm talking big, big
You
DBH.
know, 30, 32 inch
I can
pine.
remember that thing. It started going in a circle. It just ripped halfway up the trunk and went flying. And I can remember seeing, never actually witnessed a funnel cloud, but I can remember all the rain that was falling. You could see the rain in a funnel shape just start to streak, kind of like a water spout. And like I said, this was within 100 yards of the house. And how that house did not get blown off its freaking foundation, I have no clue.
Well,
But
if you remember too, looking across that field, how it was like a big vacuum just
Yeah,
sucking the
it was
rain
like
and
a
stuff
shop vac.
off the ground. And then the trees that were down 50 yards across the highway from the house, and then another 100 yards down from the house. It's like it just like split it. Because
yeah,
it took forever to cut them trees out. For mother and daddy to get back to us.
well, from our house to our neighbors, which was what, 3/4 of a mile, and it was like
Yeah,
it had like a hook. It was like a big curve. It was like 20 something trees across the road. I mean,
Yeah.
that storm went right over that house, but we made it, and we're still here to
Yeah.
tell the story today, and we just did. There you go. Fun times.
Let's go back. Talking about what Hitman had brought up about fire, and that's another weather phenomenon. Um,
I think that was one of the images that I uploaded to you today, and I know that's probably where it was from, the Western fires.
but it's fire tornadoes, and I used to drive over the road, big trucks. I drove with my ex brother in law, and we got to Denver. Sitting up in Colorado, we stopped at a big TA up there, take a shower, get a bite to eat, and all this stuff. And we had to go through Vale Pass. Vale Pass. I don't know if anybody knows, but it goes kind of weaves through the mountains and all this.
Does Hitman know where that's at?
Vale Pass was shut down because of a mudslide, because of it was a snow melt that caused a mudslide. Shut down westbound from Vale Pass. We're like, what the hell are we gonna do? So we had to reroute south towards New Mexico. New Mexico had a big wildfire going on. And we're like, wildfire, we ain't worried about that. Whatever. I drove at night. I love driving at night. I love being the nighttime driver. Um, we got in there, got us a bite to eat, showered up, and said, okay, well, we're still going to make it on time. We'll just have to reroute south. About 2 o'clock in the morning, driving south, I see a slight glow out in front of us. I'm like, what the heck is that? We start getting a little closer, getting a little closer. My brother in law, he's sleeping back in the cab, back in the sleeper back there. And I finally wake him up. I'm like, hey, what the heck is this? He gets up and looks. He said, we're going to New Mexico, ain't we? I said, yeah. He said, I think that's some of that alien shit going on. I'm like, there ain't no alien shit going on here, dude. And I said, I got the radio on. They're talking about wildfires down here. We were 150 miles from the fires burning in New Mexico. And I don't know what the hell they had to burn in New Mexico, because every time I ever went through there and saw it, there's nothing but it had the whole horizon lit up. And I have seen videos of like these wildfires in California, in Colorado, all these other places where a wildfire can actually create its own weather. I've never experienced it. We just had a wildfire, what, 2 weeks ago over here, about 45 miles or so from us. But it didn't create any weather because it was 1,000 acres. But you're talking about out there in Colorado, 15,000, 20,000 acres burning. Hitman has seen that stuff firsthand. I've even, I may be wrong, seen where it's actually created storms or thunderstorms or lightning because of that.
Yeah, no, that happens quite often in those, because it just the smoke and everything gets so heavy, and the heat and everything, and it's crazy how all of a sudden its own weather pattern just forms out of everything from the fire burning. It's kind of the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, I can
So,
remember being in Louisiana, and this was from 90. Let's see, 94 to 98 down there in Baton Rouge. And it was somewhere in that time frame when they had them big fires down in Mexico. And I can remember waking up, walking outside, getting ready to go to work. And I walked out there, I said, and it reminded me about being back home here in like South Arkansas, camping and stuff. You wake up, the fires smolder down through the night, but you can still smell the smoke. And I was like, what the frick? And of course, I had to go out and crank the truck to freaking cool it off because it's god dang hot. And I go back in, turn the weather channel on, or I've already been watching it. And they talked about the fires down in Mexico. And they were like, you have the continental United States on the southern border here, and Mexico comes down as, but they were showing it. It was like on a freaking satellite view, all this smoke coming up right through Texas and Louisiana, and that's like what, at least 1,000 miles away across the Gulf of Mexico, 1,200, and could actually smell the smoke from that far away. That was unbelievable. That'd be like a weather phenomenon that wind could push smoke that far. But
well, we have experienced, what was it, a couple of years ago, um, the winds that push and drive hurricanes. Uh, our direction actually picked up dust from the coast of Africa or over in Africa, pushed it all the way over, brought it through the Gulf Coast, and brought that up here to Arkansas.
yeah,
Came through, kind of looped through Texas.
crazy.
But yeah, weather is crazy. Um, I guess we'll go ahead and start getting ready to wrap this up. But LC, I know you haven't got to speak here much
D
lately,
D C
but
D C.
or DC, DC.
Yeah, you did that earlier. I just let it ride.
Yeah, that's my bad. That's my bad. I'm trying to keep, everybody wants their names called out right. And still learning what to do here. But if you had one place to live that you think would have perfect weather, what would it be?
Hmm. I really don't know. Uh,
Any, it could be anywhere, continental U.S., somewhere else in the world, or whatever, Caribbean, whatever you think. What if you had to pick a place to live that you would think would have the best weather for all seasons? Where do you, where would that be for you?
ooh, I really wouldn't know. I would guess maybe Hawaii. I don't. I'm not real sure. I would
Um,
say maybe in Florida, but I know it gets too damn hot there in the summer. But I don't know if Hawaii is any better. I think the landscape and the uh, all this stuff you could do there, all the sights you can see will probably trump the hotness. In Florida, you got swamps and gators. That's all you see, basically.
And the snakes now.
Yeah, snakes. Yeah, the pythons.
The big snakes.
Yeah.
Razor. Um, if you could pick a place to live that you think would meet all your weather and season needs, where would that be?
Probably somewhere close to a beach, maybe the Caribbean, Fiji, somewhere like that. Somewhere where, yeah, it gets hot, might do a little sweating, but I've been to the Caribbean before, and then you get them little pop up showers, that kind of cool everything off, and then it gets hot or whatever. But anywhere where you could just go, okay, it's hot. I'm going to the beach, go jump in the water, to where I could wear shorts, flip flops, tank tops all day long. Wouldn't have to worry about, oh, it's never going to snow down here. Just somewhere where you could just, that to me, that would be the place to be, to where I know I can wake up in the morning, I can wear shorts, flip flops, go to the beach, hang out, have some tan, drink beers, just that would be perfect. And then if I wanted to go see snow, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna take a vacation, I'm gonna go to Colorado or somewhere like that. You go see some snow. But other than that, yeah, the beach, somewhere on the beach.
All right. LC.
All right, so
Ultimate.
me and Razor are on the same wavelength right here. It's going to be a beach setting. Now, if I had the money to pick anywhere I want to live, it'd probably be Cabo. That why? It just the Pacific side over there. It'd be I think, an awesome place to be. You got the blue water, the Pacific. May get to run into Sammy Hagar down there. Uh, like Razor just said, hey, if you got the money to live here, you know, if you want to go up to the Rockies or something like that for a time, take a little time away from the beach. But yeah, I'm one to. I mean, look at my background. I mean, I wouldn't even think of it when I picked it. It's a beach. That's me. I would. The beach is my type of thing. I love it. Been to Panama City for years in a row. It's been a while since I've been there, but love it. Love the beach. It's gonna
All
be on the
right.
beach.
Hitman. Ultimate housing destination. If you had to choose, where would it be?
Well, this may surprise some of you, but Colorado has a I think, the best hidden secret. I don't know many people know about it, but there's no bugs here, by the way. You don't even need a screen porch or door. You can leave your door wide open and you ain't got to worry about mosquitoes, maybe the occasional fly, that kind of stuff. Unless we have a really wet spring or something, we don't really get mosquitoes or any kind of bugs. So I love this place. So Colorado would be somewhere I'd love to live. But
Oh, you're there.
I would also, Caribbean. You can't go wrong there. I could put up with some humidity to live in that scenery.
Senoritas,
sure.
Heck yeah.
Right? Yeah, Mai Tai.
Yeah. Um, I guess if I had to pick, first off, um, I would have to say Hawaii. I spent 4 years there. You can get claustrophobic uh, because of the size of the island, but it is um, weather-wise. I did go through a hurricane there once, and it's not nice living on an island and hearing uh, flash flood imminent and all this stuff. But as far as year-round weather, You can't beat it. Um, but if it had to be continental U.S., I don't know. Scott's making a pretty good. Nah, I don't know. I don't like the winter.
It ain't that bad.
I hate the cold. I'm not built for cold.
Well,
But
you know, in the summer or in the wintertime, you could just, go somewhere warm and then come back here for the other 3 seasons.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Should have did it on your phone, Jeff.
I know it. I know it. I just want y'all to hang around here
Ah,
after I
shit.
stop the stream. It's all good. I can cut that out. But I do appreciate everybody coming by and chat and checking the stream out and interacting. Man, we're gonna do this every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. It's called What's the Topic? And there's a reason for that because you never know what the topic is. So everybody come back, check out the stream, and see what we talk about next week. Tonight it was weather. We talked about the Mandela effect. You never know what we're going to talk about. We have lots of ideas, and we want to get you guys in the chat involved uh, with what we're talking about. Give us ideas. If you think you have something you'd like us to talk about, let us know. And we appreciate each and every one stopping by and checking it out. LC, last thoughts?
I learned a few things tonight that I didn't know about, so I like this how we're doing this. Pick a topic, learn some things, and get chat interactions and get their thoughts and opinions. And with that, I just say had fun and see y'all next week.
DC, I got it right that time. Inputs and what do you think about tonight?
Well, this is my first time on here since other than the like the test one we had starting out. I mean, I think the tonight was a pretty good topic between the seasons and the weather and everything like that. And it's always interesting getting to talk to. I mean, the majority of us. I'm just talking about Hitman. I mean, he's the only one not in Arkansas, but like getting his what he deals with in Colorado. Because at some point I would like to go to Colorado and visit. And
Just
it's
not winter.
interesting to hear all these other things, all these other stories or experiences. It's always a real good time to to learn stuff. And
All right, Razor.
I enjoyed myself again, just like last week. I said, anytime you guys want me on, yeah. If not, then I'll definitely be in the chat and do some commenting, maybe do some suggestions or whatever. But yeah, like I said, just hearing different experiences, and how other people think about weather. Like last week, the Mandela effect, it makes you think about things. So yeah, I had a great time.
And Hitman.
Yeah, I'll agree with what everybody said. Another great podcast, I think, tonight. A lot of good conversation. Learned some things. Heard some good stories. And yeah, looking forward to continuing this on.
All right, and continuing with what Hitman said there, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, you never know exactly what we're going to talk about. That's why it's called What's the Topic? You have to tune in to know what we discuss. I appreciate LC and Hitman that are co-host with me here. We have different guests every week. We had DC, and Razor up in here tonight. Um, you never know who's going to be our guest. Who knows? We might have a celebrity guest one night. Uh, Still working on some things for that. But we appreciate everybody stopping by, and we will catch you all next week.
See you, everybody.
See you.
Peace.
Have a good one.